I'm here to talk about the Gorosei. I'm not saying I was wrong about them. I'm not saying I was correct about them, but I think we got to talk about them. I think the main thing to talk about with the Gorosei is the fact that they seem to be overpowered. But I beg people just to take a second and understand this is typically how a lot of characters look upon introduction and even after early interactions. They seem unstoppable. It seems like there's nothing you can do to slow them down or stop them, but there's certain things in regards to the Gorosei that I gotta point out that I think people are overlooking. First thing, Egghead, amazing. One Piece is on a 3-week break. However, there's a lot of things that we can talk about. Kizaru is one of those things. A discussion is needed there. But for right now, let's focus on the Gorosei. Let's go right from the beginning. In the One Piece world and in our own world, everyone has dreams. And for some of those dreams, influence matters. I mean, what would Big News Morgans have to do all day if no one checked into his newspapers? And with today's sponsor, Squarespace, you can create a powerful and beautiful online platform to do just that. Connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content. Manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights all on one easy-to-use platform. Create a community on your Squarespace website with the fully integrated commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and likes. Use their powerful blogging tools to categorize, share, and schedule your posts too. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/BDA law to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Early on, when the Gorosei were introduced, you could tell they were end game, right? From the introduction, because they were the kings at the top of the One Piece world. They were giving us information about the admirals, about the Yonko, about the warlords. They were the people moving the chess pieces around, and anytime any important event happened, Oda made sure to give us their perspective, or at least some of it, and made sure to play up just the importance of these people. For a long time, we thought these were the 5 people in control of the world. We did not find out about Imu until later in the story, which let's see how long One Piece goes, because that might not be classified as later in the story. If we get to chapter 1800, I don't know. The expectation was always that we're gonna have to face these guys one day. Now, I didn't expect it in Egghead. After Saturn pulled, I was like, okay, cool. We get to face one, because typically in anime, there's like a group of people. You just stumble upon one of these guys, and they're not as strong. Like in Wano, we had the Tobiropo. You just stumble upon one of these guys, and then all of a sudden, Oda slowly but surely reveals the rest of them, and they end up being as strong, not as strong, but typically the first one is not as strong as the others. And it seems that way so far with the Gorosei. I think the way more interesting thing that's come from this chapter is the possibility, or these recent chapters, these recent string of just 10 out of 10 chapters, is a possibility that the Gorosei probably might not be devil fruit users. Here's my thing. Every time there's something crazy that happens in One Piece, I always defer to the history of the story, right? Where it's like, it's either Haki or devil fruit. Typically, that's what it is. We have random moments like the Clabata Man, or strange instances of fate, like Roger and the Ed War versus Shiki, we presume. I think even Luffy getting saved. We always try to tie it back to something. Even Roger and the Ed War, that's the thing that's somewhat unexplained. You just gotta categorize it as fate, and Roger being Roger, he was meant to be. For Luffy, you assume it's Dragon saving him from Buggy. But when it comes to this, the Gorosei and how they're revealed, it's not the typical reveal. They just have the names. It was also pointed out that even in the Japanese version, they're not described as devil fruits. They're described as the actual thing. This begs the question, are they devil fruit users, or have they been turned into the actual things? Now, again, I defer typically to the history of the story, but this is unlike anything we've ever seen in the story. The Gorosei are unlike anything we've ever seen. Another thing to point out is that in their summoning circle, they have numbers somewhat similar to the satellites, where each of these characters are numbered. And also pointed out, shout out to Arda from the Library of Ahara, there are several instances of them being ordered or numbered in a certain way. He mentioned their first appearance in Jaya, their appearance post Marineford, when their names are revealed, and when their powers are revealed. It's a certain order to them, which goes from Jupiter to Nosjuro, Warcury, Mars, and Saturn. Typically when these things happen, anime fans, shonen fans, we always start to categorize it as strength, where Jupiter is either the strongest or the weakest, Nosjuro second, Warcury third, Mars 4th, and then Saturn 5th. It is hard, guys, even post things happening, to say whether or not these things are accurate considering just how things play out. For instance, the Tobiropo. I'm not confident in saying that page 1 is the weakest Tobiropo, even though he was the first one to appear. Of course, there are not as many instances as this, but I'm not okay saying that. This is a different story, but even with Bleach, yeah, you know where I'm going. I'm not gonna spoil, but number 4. Was he really number 4 or was he number 1? But then they had number 0. If you know, you know. Either way, let's get back to One Piece. The Gorosei, they are still mired in just speculation and mystery. There are a few theories out there about what they are. One is that they are creations of Emu, similar to Vegapunk and the Satellites. That's why they were revealed here in Egghead, or their true forms are revealed. However, everything they are somewhat follows the rules of Zoans. Hybrids, they transform. But something that I want to point out as well that the Gorosei have dispelled, I don't even know if they've dispelled it because it's already been dispelled so long ago, but people still follow that mantra. And it's the fact that even if you follow someone, you can't have Conqueror's Haki. It is the weirdest thought process I've ever seen in the story, where bro, he follows him, he's not gonna have Conqueror's Haki. That's not how it works. Clearly they follow Emu, yet they have Conqueror's Haki. And that's my main thing for why I don't think they are just straight up creations. Maybe the power has been bestowed by Emu, but saying they're straight up creations, bestowed Conqueror's Haki, that's a bit insane to me. You're telling me Emu created 5 people, and I'm gonna assume they all have Conquerors, unless you think Mars is the only one that has it. But we saw the Black Lightning from Saturn as well, presumed based on the order of appearance and the order that's been consistent in the story to be the weakest. Before we ever saw their forms, my favorite to be the strongest was Jupiter. Then my second was Nostura, because typically swordsmen, true swordsmen, are the second strongest in these things. And number 1 is a brawler. That's not true. That's not true. I just made that up. I feel like they've been stun locked. Stun locked meaning when they became immortal, either via the ageless surgery or whatever Emu did to them. I'm leaning towards the ageless surgery because something to point out in the last chapter, he used the giants to say, and the giants, they've been around for a long time, right? They have the history of the world damn near Nelbath. More than likely, we saw the library with Saul. He said, I've never heard of anything, any ability, or any race that can do what they did. Where Oda is saying, hey, if it's a race of things, a demon, or is it ability created by the immortality surgery? Or it could be just the giants are disconnected because they've been fighting the entire time. They're not worried about anything else but fighting. I thought Jupiter could be the strongest because he was locked into his prime as a young man. He's the youngest looking Gorosei. And then Nosjuro, he has a blade. That's typical. When you have a blade in anime, you more than likely will be raw in the upper echelon of things. That's just how it works. So I had those 2 pegged as the 2 strongest. So far, I don't know. They look really cool. Jupiter, not so much. I know a lot of people are leaning towards Mars because Mars looks really dope. He looks like a mythical bird in Pokemon. Mars seems to be the front runner right now, but I think Zoro has to engage with Nosturo because it just makes too much sense for where I think the story is going. Now, guys, consider this with the Gorosei. I don't think they're creations of Emu, straight up created things. No, I don't think so. I think their power could have been bestowed, but I think we should also consider experimentation. The Gorosei and their origins are unknown, but for me, I think these Gorosei, these people are selected from different eras in the world, in history, and they are people that come from different walks of life in One Piece. Let's say Wano, Alabasta, who knows where they come from, but I do think their power has been amplified. I think the fact that they're all numbered means something, which could be tied to Emu and their fealty to him. All these people having these powers, could it just be that Emu has an ability to grant power or powers that are somewhat similar to the origin of something, right? Like an origin devil fruit. For a lot of these mythical fruits, mythical zoans, ancient zoans, they're typically based on things that existed. And so what if the Gorosei's powers are they have been granted or bestowed the power of these deities from the past? Luffy's eating the Nika devil fruit based on that deity from the past, that One Piece created deity, where, for example, one of the Gorosei, they're bestowed the power of Nika, where they straight up have the power of Nika, and it's not necessarily a devil fruit. But here's the distinction that I struggle with. You don't say that it's a devil fruit. What's the difference? If they're just straight up creations, what is the difference between that and a devil fruit? Can they swim? That'll be the only difference. If they're the actual thing, because devil fruits typically don't limit you in regards to the abilities you can use. It is strictly, well, they can't swim. If that's the difference, it is pretty overpowered considering what devil fruit users can't do. But if they have the same limitations, there's no difference. Again, I think all this goes back to Emu and these powers were bestowed, but let's ponder experimentation for a second. Something that raised this for me is War Curie. When he changed his tusks into blades, is there some green blood experimentation happening where he can use Daz Bones's devil fruits? Because we know experimentation was happening with Ginny, with the Seraphim, even Saturn proclaiming himself a scientist, even though he's been fooled this entire time by Vegapunk. So these are things we have to consider, that the Gorosei are just successful experiments. Here's a question as well, because this chapter or these previous chapters, they give us a lot of answers, but it also provides questions, which is Oda's style. Are all these Gorosei, all these people, Nosjuro, Jupiter, Wakuri, are all of them natural born Gorosei, or natural born celestial dragons rather? Or were they brought up and then deemed celestial dragons. It would be crazy if peasants were brought up this way. However, I think it would be more interesting if these were people handpicked and chosen to become the leaders of the world. I don't think it all happened at one time, but every time we've seen them, they have been together, but they haven't changed their appearance. So I've come to a few conclusions, guys. Like, you've gone through my thought experiment. Now, Brago, what's your conclusion? Here's my conclusion. These are people from all walks of life. They've all been turned in different times of their lives. They're all different ages, but they're all immortal. A wild card that I think is in this thing is Doflamingo. Remember what Doflamingo said? If only I had the power of the OPOP fruit in my grasp on that specific day years ago, I would have been able to make use of Mary Joa's treasure to seize true world power. So I wonder, could the treasure be something that you can only use if you're immortal? Well, that's the first step. To be granted this power that Imu grants to you, you have to be immortal or you die. However, Doflamingo knowing this, it can't just be something random, meaning there is information in Mary Joa about these things, which tells me there is a process to becoming a Gorosei. Immortality, maybe fealty, and then bestowment. These are super random things that I'm making up, but Doflamingo is telling us something. He knows enough about the immortality surgery. From where? Even the giants have never heard about this. This is key. The OPOP no Mi. It is key, guys. Doflamingo also says to Law, because Law asked him something. Law says, I don't understand, man. You're a former Tenryubito. You left Mary Joa. Why do you still have such power? You were even able to mobilize CP0. And Doflamingo laughs and says, yo, you about to die. You still care about this? But let me tell you, I hold the information of a certain royal treasure from the sacred land of Mary Joa. Just its very existence is enough to shake the world to its core. Now, the treasure, is it Imu? I think the treasure is how to become immortal, or how to become an immortal being, an immortal overpowered being like Imu or the Gorosei. Doflamingo knows the process. For the Gorosei, that's not something they want out there. We could even go back to the Tama Tobacco box, or even the pills that Hody Jones and them were using. These things, I think, are hints in regards to strength and just what the treasure could be. Because in most things, typically, the elixir of life, immortality, living forever, those are things that people hold dear and they treasure more than anything. For me, I think it points back to that. At worst, all these Gorosei were turned immortal by the OPOP no Mi and then granted power by Imu. More to come. But at least we have a baseline of where to start with the Gorosei. It's just that, where else do we go from here? I could pull so many things from ancient lore where Oda's referencing, but I don't think that shit really matters. That's not going to tell us what they are. But the story is telling us there are few things that matter more than anything. Immortality is one of those things. And so far, the Gorosei, they seem to be immortal. What is your conclusion about the Gorosei? Are they demons? Pointed this out before, but Brook, when he landed after being sent by Kuma, he landed somewhere in a magic circle where they had a demonic cult trying to use a magic circle to summon something. So these things already exist within One Piece. And I find it funny that Brook is the one that landed there, the skeleton. And then we have Iten Nosjuro, who is a skeleton that can seemingly use the cold of the underworld like Brook can, and Brook being undead as well, or landing in this magic circle. I find that interesting. That could be a hint in itself. I've always said, I'm going to keep saying it. We went to Skypiea. I would love for us to visit somewhere like the underworld, in a nether realm or something like that. I don't know if that ever happens, but it would be cool. Leave me your thoughts, guys. I'm really interested in them. Maybe best comments. We have a best comments video. We haven't had that in years. Let me know. Like, subscribe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.